Mary had a little lamb.
Fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein came back to the Capitol last week to a standing ovation.
I want to welcome back our colleague, Senator Dianne Feinstein.
Mrs. Feinstein, I.
After battling shingles for nearly 3 months, a spokesperson for the 89-year-old Democrat confirmed Thursday she suffered from additional complications, including a rare neurological disorder called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome and encephalitis, or inflammation of the brain.
Great. How is your recovery going, Senator?
Earlier this week, the senator faced renewed scrutiny over her health after a Los Angeles Times reporter asked her about her return to the Senate.
I haven't been going. I've been working.
You've been working from home, is what you're saying?
No, I've been here.
I think she should step down.
California Congressman Ro Khanna is one of several lawmakers demanding Feinstein's resignation.
She's representing 40 million people in California. We need someone who's going to be on top of the job.
Feinstein holds a seat on the powerful Senate Judiciary Committee where Democrats now have a one-vote advantage over Republicans. So missing one vote leaves Democrats short of getting President Biden's judicial nominees through.
What kind of accommodations do you have to make?
Well, we schedule things that work for her to make sure that she's able to attend physically.
I was mayor of San Francisco for 9 years.
As the longest-serving female senator, the 5-term legislator announced in February that she would not seek re-election next year. Congresswoman Katie Porter is running for her seat.
Any concerns about her ability to serve out her full term?
I think it's very, very clear that it's time for a change in California. That's why I declared to run.
She didn't answer the question. So let me ask you. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday, you bastards. So let me ask you. Obviously, Dianne Feinstein is suffering from scabies or the shingles or the rickets or the Ramsay-Hunt. I don't know, the Ramsays and the John Benets. She had encephalitis, swelling of the brain over here. Okay, obviously, it's time for Dianne Feinstein to retire. You know what the problem with this is, don't you? Okay, so here's the problem with this. It was somewhat discussed in that little brief report there. We only have a 1-seat advantage on the all-powerful Senate Judiciary Committee, which confirms federal judges. And obviously, the judges that we have are into cruelty. They're like really into, some kind of a BDSM thing. They want to torture women. They want to torture children. They want to, get rid of education. They're, I mean, the only thing that exists for them is donor money and businesses and the tax code, right? So we have to put judges on the federal bench. We do have openings. It's not like they advertise. It's not like you're walking by, a judicial branch and they have a help wanted ad. But it's true that there are hundreds of seats that can and need to be filled. And if we actually said to Dianne, or Dianne said, okay, I can't, I've had enough, I'm done, I'm tired, I don't feel well, I have the scabies, whatever, the Republicans would not allow us, check this out, to replace her on the Judiciary Committee. So, and how do I know this? Because we actually went to the Republicans. We went to Mitch McConnell and his cabal there, who held open a Supreme Court seat, as you know, that was supposed to be for Merrick Garland for 11 months because he didn't want a Democratic president, one Barack Obama, to pick Merrick Garland, a complete centrist, and put him on the Supreme Court. Mitch McConnell wanted to wait for an election to see if he could get a Republican president who would give him Leonard Leo's list, and then he could put, Gorsuch on the bench, which is what we ended up with instead of Merrick Garland. Okay, so we went to Mitch McConnell and asked him if we could replace Dianne Feinstein in the Senate Judiciary Committee because she's 89 and ill. And you know what he said? well, I think this is unprecedented. And, you'd have to put it to a roll call vote, which means you'd have to have 60 votes. And I'm not talking about replacing her with an outsider. I'm not talking about replacing her with a House member. I'm not talking about replacing her with Ro Khanna or Adam Schiff or Katie Porter or any. They actually said, the Democrats in the Senate said, let's just move Senator Ben Cardin, who is a senator from Maryland currently. Let's just move him onto the Judiciary Committee to be a placeholder pending the election, which will happen in 2024. Dianne Feinstein's indicated she's not going to run for re-election. Can we just do that? And they said, no, you don't have 60 votes to do it, which is why my husband in heaven, Sheldon, told us last week the only solution, because these Republicans are disgraceful, they are a toxic blight on a functioning democracy on every single issue you could possibly think of, whether it's voting rights, whether it's, doing border immigration reform, whether it's helping out the dreamers, whether it's climate change, and you don't even have to call it climate change. Let's just call it innovation for a 21st century marketplace that has trillions and trillions of dollars floating around in it that would like to invest in the United States to build battery plants and electric, charging stations, etc., right? But they're not interested in any of this because their donors are fossil fuel guys. Their donors are coal. Their donors are, people who have big money that's backing dirty industries, right? Anyway, they said, no, we can't replace Dianne Feinstein. So we had to wheel her in. And my question is, does that make us any better than, let's say, Jim Jordan? Okay, clearly the answer is yes. And I'm sorry I even asked it. I feel dirty. But no, I mean, it's just so unbelievable that is the game that the Republicans are playing. And so they are forcing an 89-year-old to roll on in to sit on the Judiciary Committee to vote for, federal judges that, need to be replaced, that the benches are empty. And I swear to God, it's so vile. But I remember last week we were listening to Sheldon Whitehouse, and they asked Sheldon Whitehouse, so is it time for her to retire? And he's like, we don't have a choice about it. The best thing for her to do is to come back and just sit there until the next election, because the Republicans are putting procedural obstacles in front of getting a person from the same party who's already a senator from Maryland on the Judiciary Committee. And that's where we find ourselves. And it's so disgusting, and it's so anti-democratic, and it's so, there's no cooperation. In fact, today, we're one day closer to the default, right? We're one day closer to being a deadbeat nation, everybody. Woo! What are you going to wear on default day? What do you wear on default day? I guess I'll get one of those black ribbons that you rip when someone dies. I guess I'll wear that because the country will die. But they have actually paused. This is the word I'm using. This is the word that, reporters are using. But they actually quit. The Republicans quit the debt ceiling negotiations. Yeah, they quit. They don't want to work on solving the debt. So here's where we're at. We have two options. Neither of them will meet the deadline date. If the deadline date is June 1st, neither of these options. And we've gone over them with you, right? One is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which basically we know from civil rights era, the equal protection clause, blah, blah, blah. But inside the 14th Amendment, there is a section that deals with the United States debt, because this was all post-Civil War stuff, the 14th was. And so it also said, because we owed so much money after the Civil War, that the debt of the United States shall not be questioned. You will pay the bills. That's why it's in the 14th Amendment. But that would be litigated, and that would be months, if not years, before we got a result of the litigation challenging what it clearly says in the Constitution about our debt. And the other one is the discharge petition. And right now, we don't have 218.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
the best response is for Senator Feinstein to get better and come back. Because whether she's out of the committee because she has stepped down from the committee temporarily, or whether she's out of the committee because she's left the committee, or whether she's off the committee because she's left the Senate, the same process has to be gone through to replace her on the committee. So the Republican blockade that is presently preventing us from filling her seat on a temporary basis could just as easily prevent us from filling her seat in the Judiciary Committee on a permanent basis if she were to resign. The only clear solution is for her to come back, and that's what we're very hopeful she will do.
And that's what we just saw happen, and it's painful to watch. I mean, it's you know, obviously she's not well. She's not well, and she's you know, still going to the Senate and still voting and still participating and trying to sit up. You know, I guess I was going to say straight, but no, she's just trying to sit up. This is all it is. So this is the predicament that the Republicans force us into, where we have to actually watch an 89-year-old woman be wheeled into the awesome, the most deliberative body in the history of man, the United States Senate. It looks like the Roman Senate. I swear to God, you know, it's like pretty soon we're going to have, you know, horses serving. I don't know. It's sad that we can't even get like the most basic cooperation from Republicans on anything, nothing, not even a default of the United States of America. So this is where we are. This is what we're staring down. And the real sick thing is the debt ceiling, the really, really scary, horrible thing. I mean, would it be, horrible if we couldn't put more judges on the federal bench? Well, yeah, because you've got crazy governors in, gerrymandered, which is also a function of the court, gerrymandered, states with supermajorities passing legislation that's literally going to cause women to die, that's literally going to cause children to die, literally cause them to die, to commit suicide, to feel unwelcome in their own communities, to feel unwelcome in their own country, because they've decided that, declaring war on culture or some such crap is useful for them. So And here in Florida, they're going even further. I mean, you got DeSantis declaring war on business. You have DeSantis declaring war on Disney. So did you see that yesterday? Disney was going to invest $1 billion in Florida in a place called Nona Lake. And they had a plan to open up an office complex. They'd already moved, a couple of years ago, they started moving people from California, Imagineers and stuff. They started moving people from California to Florida to start staffing up this complex that they were building. COVID sort of set them back. COVID delayed the opening of this business complex, but now they because Ron is or Rob, if you're Trump, he is threatening Disney in state court. Disney has having to sue him in federal court because he doesn't believe in freedom of speech, right? Disney can't disagree with him. In fact, bloggers can't disagree with him. No one can disagree with him. He's a little dictator, And so he's passing these bans and these laws and all kinds of crap. And one of the things had to do with Disney. He was going to take away their autonomy. And we have all these special districts here in Florida. We have like 2,000 of them. In fact, that real rank, it's like the home for senior STDs. It's the home for chlamydia and syphilis in Florida, the Villages. You know that place where people, go to party into their elder years until they're, even when they're being wheeled around and stuff, they move to the Villages. You know that is a special district. That's also treated differently for tax purposes, okay? There's a whole bunch of special districts in Florida so that people would come here and set business up in the swampland. So Disney had that, and they've had it for 50 years, and it wasn't until we had Ron death sentence attacking little gay children, right, that Disney said, we're not really into this don't say gay thing because we actually hire and employ an extraordinary amount of people that are of different sexual orientations. And we just disagree with what you're doing. And for that, they were told they couldn't have their special district privileges anymore, and that he was going to replace their board with a bunch of sycophants, with a bunch of loyalists, right? But Disney saw this coming, and so they actually voted for a new board after he dissolved the old board. And the new board is the old board, and so now they're all in court. So yesterday, Disney said, we're canceling this $1 billion investment in Florida, which would have produced 2,000 good-paying jobs. The average pay for one of these jobs at this Nona Lake office complex, the average pay, $120,000 a year. And thanks to, a meatball man, they're not doing it. They said, that's it. We're done. We can't, unless he goes, unless something changes, we're going to sue you because you, as the governor, are the very definition of the government infringing on our right to disagree with you, on our free speech rights. So we're pulling the cash. We're pulling it out of Florida. So that's going on. And then women in this place are like, please get some decent judges, please, because we never thought that the unprecedented decision on Roe v. Wade, we never thought that it would affect us because we were a young family and we were desperate to have even more children than we already have. We had one child. We were desperate to have another child. And so we never imagined that, the end of Roe v. Wade would affect our family. Well, it did. Here's a story I read today that just, it makes your skin crawl, okay? It gives you the ooty guts. It makes you like nauseous to think that this is what policies that the Republican Party stand for does to ordinary people, right? There's a couple, their name is Deborah and Lee. Last name's Dorbert, but Deborah and Lee. And they were desperate to have a fourth member of their family. Okay, they already had a little boy. They wanted to add to their family. They got pregnant in August, and they were thrilled. They were so excited. Halfway through the pregnancy, which is when these prenatal tests actually can show fetal abnormalities. You can't, first of all, 6 weeks, which is what it is now in Florida, you don't even know you're pregnant a third of the time, okay? 2/3 of the people that I know who found out they were pregnant didn't know they were pregnant in their 6th week. That's number one. Number two, when this happened, there was a 12-week ban, okay? Anyway, most of the fetal abnormality tests are done halfway through the pregnancy, about 20 weeks. Let's just be general, say about 20 weeks. So when she was able to, halfway through her pregnancy, do some of these prenatal tests, they discovered her fetus had something called Potter syndrome. That means there's not enough amniotic fluid in the amniotic fluid sac to support the pregnancy, and the chances of a baby surviving is slim to none. Slim to none. But no doctor could help her because she was 20 weeks. An idiot boy had already said, no, nothing happens in this state at 12. Now it's 6.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
I hope all America knows that sadly, the Republican Party is a brand that has gone toxic.
Right. Toxic. So this is where we left off. So this woman who, her and her husband were very excited. They were pregnant in August, okay? And in August in Florida, we had a 15-week abortion ban. Again, it's about 20 weeks before you can screen for fetal abnormalities, etc. So halfway through her pregnancy, she was screened, and it turned out that growing inside her was a fetus that had Potter syndrome, where there's not enough amniotic fluid in the sac that contains the baby, and the baby is likely to die. Likely to die. Well, we had a 15-week abortion ban, and no one would help her because the baby wasn't dead yet. The baby had a heartbeat. The heart kept beating, and the doctors would not honor her request to terminate the pregnancy. The doctors would not tell her how they reached this conclusion that they couldn't help her, but because of the new law, that law actually provides for prison time for doctors who help women in her particular scenario, in her situation. Prison time for doctors. It's like springtime for Hitler. I swear it sounds like some sort of a crazy comedy movie. It just sounds like something Mel Brooks would have written down, and no, prison time for doctors. It was a real thing. And so they declined to help her. So she had to wait. This happened to her when she was about 20 weeks pregnant. She had to wait till about her 37th week, okay? 37th week, months she had to carry what she knew, and she had a little boy who was watching her pregnancy and very excited to see his little baby brother or sister, and they didn't know what to tell him. They finally understood that they had to tell him something because they weren't going to tend to her. They weren't going to honor her request to end the pregnancy so she could try again. For her little boy, so that right? They said, no, the best we could do is 37 weeks. We can induce labor, 37 weeks. So they had to go to like palliative care experts to try and figure out how they deal with this. And all palliative care could tell them was just go about your business as normal. That's it. The baby had a name and everything. The baby was called Milo. Their son that they already had was Caden. And Caden was asking, when am I going to see my little baby brother? When am I going to see my baby brother? They had to explain to Caden that the baby's body had stopped working. And so he wasn't going to be able to come home, and they would all meet later as angels. Caden is 4 years old. Caden looked at it, he goes, I don't want to be an angel. I don't want to. And so anyway, she was forced to give birth. And this is where it gets really, really cruel. But this is why it's toxic. This is why they're toxic, because cruelty is the point. It is the point. In a country where we have modern medicine, where we know what Potter's syndrome is, where we understand what needs to be done, where we used to do what needs to be done, but now we're forcing women, in the 21st century, we're forcing women to carry babies to 37 weeks at least so they can induce labor, and then force that baby to die slowly, which is exactly what happened here. When Milo was finally born, he did not have properly functioning lungs or a properly functioning set of kidneys. So, of course, he got toxic, and of course, he couldn't breathe. So when he was born, he didn't cry. He couldn't open up his eyes, and he started to struggle from the minute he was out. As soon as they cut the umbilical cord, he really rapidly declined, but he lived for 99 hours. You know how long 99 hours is when you're struggling to breathe? Do you know how long 99 hours is when you're in pain? The whole time he was gasping for air. And the husband here, Lee, decided that the best he could do, that he would read a book to his dying son. And so that's what he did. He read I'll Love You Forever. Now, I don't know if, the school marms are going to come and say that book's inappropriate. I don't know. And say, you can't read that one. You have to read the Bible. I don't know. But that's what they read. And they sang Bob Marley's Three Little Birds as this baby died for 99 straight hours. And she said, the mother said, her name's Deborah, she said, I blame Ron DeSantis for the suffering that my family has endured. To me, this is just torture. It's just about torture. This law has created torture. And that is what happened. And that is what happened to this little baby that, did not need to go through 99 hours. But see, this is the point of them. That's why I say they're toxic, okay? And they lie and they cheat and they steal. And now they're preparing the ground. Now they're trying to sow so much distrust in every institution, from the Senate, which is why they won't even say that Senator Ben Cardin, who is a senator duly elected from Maryland, there is no reason why he can't sit on the Judiciary Committee and prevent Dianne Feinstein from having to suffer with shingles and Ramsey syndrome and, obviously obviously her eyes are infected. Shingles can affect your eyes. It could affect your mouth. I mean, it's such shingles. All kidding aside, okay? Shingles is extremely painful. My mom suffered from it. She had it for a really long time. It is unbelievable. It's rashy. It's itchy. It's burning. It feels like you're being stabbed with metal spikes. I mean, it's painful. They love it. They dig it, man. Come to work. Come to work. Because they won't approve a guy who they know is a decent human being, Ben Cardin from Maryland, to replace Dianne Feinstein on the Judiciary Committee, because their bigger goal is packing the courts with their nominees. That's what they want, so that this kind of ugliness can continue to be inflicted on families and women and fetuses and newborns and every other thing. And every other thing that they have now in their sights to make suffer, to make pain for. I mean, it's so wow. But this is the state of affairs. And now, like you can see it with the debt ceiling. I mean, we are literally less than 2 weeks away. It's what's today, the 18th. So they're telling us the X date, meaning the date that we can't pay our bills anymore, even through trickery, even through moving stuff around. The date that we can't, make ends meet anymore as the United States of America is the 1st of June. And I'm telling you, we only have 210 votes on the discharge petition, and we need 218. There are 3 Democrats who haven't voted yet. And then we're still going to need 5 Republicans. And then a clock starts ticking once you have 218 also, because this is one of these crazy parliamentary procedures that you have to let it sit in the committee for 30 days. It's like baking bread with really slow yeast. I mean, like really slow. And so once you get 218, then you have to wait a certain amount of days. It would not happen until like June 18th or 20th, something like that. Oh, my God.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I hope all America knows that sadly, the Republican Party is a brand that has gone toxic. I hope the Republican Party can reclaim itself from some of the actors you just featured. As important as it is that we know that they are toxic, we also have to know how they celebrate indecency. Take a look at that string of facts and events. It's indecency after indecency. The very person claiming that she suffered aggression has done nothing but be an aggressor in the most vile of ways. As you said, got her career started by taunting Parkland survivors. Just a very indecent set of folks. And I hope that we can contrast that they are not interested in governing. They took the majority. Remember what they were going to do. They were going to work on the economy and prices and inflation and jobs. They've done none of it. They're doing these crazy faux witch hunts. And to your point, you're right. I serve with Jim Jordan, sadly, on the Judiciary Committee. He's flailing, trying to weaponize his gavel against the Biden administration to lift up Mr. Trump. It's a very sad circus, and what I worry about, and I would love both your and Brendan's take. Where do we go from here? Where does the Republican Party go from here? They have taken themselves down such a terrible set of rabbit holes.
Well, they go to retirement is where they go. You know, the party's cooked. It's done. By the way, let me correct something. I misspoke. It's not 99. What'd I say? 99.
You said hours, and our audience has been very quick to inform
us. Minutes. 99
minutes.
Minutes. Not 99 hours. This poor baby suffered for 99 minutes, which is still a ridiculously long time if you're in pain and you can't breathe. 99 minutes. 99 minutes. So 60 minutes is an hour. Okay? Just imagine going more than an hour and a half without being able to breathe. and just flailing and suffering and being in pain. Anyway, I misspoke. I said hours. It's minutes. It's still disgusting. I mean, the suffering is toxic, and this is what they're exposing all of us to, in an era in which we don't have to see that kind of suffering. We don't. Modern medicine is there for this reason, so that there is less suffering in our country. That story just made me gag with, disgust and disgrace. I'm ashamed that these are American stories now. I'm ashamed that these are the things that are in newspapers, that these are the things that are happening in the state that I live in the state that I pay taxes in. I mean, it's just so disgusting to me. And the idea that we need to accept this or just go with the flow, forget it. Forget it. They are a toxic, toxic bunch. They are always the victims. They never look at the actual people they're victimizing. Jim Jordan is saying, he's calling his committee, the Committee on the Weaponization of Government, and he's using his weaponization committee to weaponize government. I mean, obviously he's doing that. You know, you had Comer admit this week that he can't find his informant. He can't find his whistleblower. He doesn't know what happened to this person. Jim Jordan had his chance to bring his whistleblowers. His whistleblowers can blow me, okay? I mean, it's just like, what is he talking? The whistleblowers he brought yesterday to testify about how they've been victimized were two FBI guys, young guys, okay? Two guys who they had their security clearances revoked a year ago. Not now, a year ago, because they were assigned to investigate the violence, the riot, the insurrection on January 6th. And they believed conspiracy theories. They were like down with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they were down with the whole QAnon and the Michael Flynn's and the Donald Trumps, that it was stolen, blah, 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 okay? But they were FBI agents, and there was a court had ordered the arrest of people who had bear spray and had beaten several cops and had, done amazing damage to the Capitol, and they said they would not arrest this person. They wouldn't do their job. That was one of them. Another one of them actually interfered in the investigation of a January 6th rioter by saying, that he was tasked with finding some background information on somebody who actually beat police officers and, broke in. And he said he couldn't find any derogatory information on this person. And it turned out that there was derogatory information on this person that was publicly known, that was in the newspaper, that was, something you didn't need to do a deep dive into to find. And he lied to his FBI supervisor, which is a crime. And then another guy who was also supposedly a whistleblower, he had broken into FBI headquarters and brought a thumb drive and took some of the internal information about the investigation into January 6th, took it and put it on a thumb drive and left with this information. And that's why they had their security clearances revoked. Okay? Now we have 80,000 people working inside the FBI? 80,000, yes. Of those 80,000, we've only seen 32 people lose their security clearances. The three that Jim Jordan called yesterday to testify, not only were they part of the 32, but they also were paid by a Donald Trump advisor who pled the Fifth Amendment when he was called in to testify under oath, Kash Patel. Yes, Kash Patel actually was called to testify about the documents case. And Kash Patel invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege, saying that if he testified, he would run the risk of incriminating himself. So the DOJ gave him limited immunity, use immunity, saying that, you can testify. We won't prosecute you for your participation in covering up the espionage that went on by stealing the documents. So now he was forced to testify because there was no threat that he would incriminate himself and go to jail because they took that possibility away. And so then he testified that Donald Trump actually had the authority and was able to think the documents declassified, and therefore they were. Well, we found out this week that there was a 12-page protocol that the National Archives had delivered to Donald Trump upon his loss so that he would know what proper procedure was for declassifying any documents that he wished to declassify. He had to go through this process, 12 pages worth of process. And Donald Trump knew that there was a process to declassify. So did Kash Patel. You know how I know this? He's a lawyer. And he was in the White House at the time. So they all actually lied under oath on purpose. On purpose. And that is who was paying these so-called informants, these so-called whistleblowers, to testify in front of Jim Jordan's committee, where Jim Jordan was weaponizing the government in his committee called the Weaponization of Government. I mean, the irony is just, it's thick. It's an unbelievable rabbit hole. But okay. So now you have the committee hearing, and on the committee, there are Democrats and there are Republicans. There are more Republicans than Democrats because that's what happens when you win a majority. You get a majority of seats on every committee except the Ethics Committee. The Ethics Committee is evenly divided. There's a little factoid going forward. You now know that. But all the other committees are in favor of the majority party. But there are Democrats, even when you're in the majority, on any committee. And the Judiciary Committee is no exception. Well, there are House rules. And the House rules are very similar to court rules with regard to discovery, right? So we all know, because we've been through a lot of trials together, that when somebody sues or when somebody is criminally indicted and they have to present a defense, whatever the prosecution has, they share with the defense, and vice versa, so that everybody approaches the day of trial on an equal playing field, on a level playing field. Everyone knows what the prosecutor has. Everyone knows what the defense has, evidence-wise and testimony-wise. Why do we know that? Because the court actually requires everyone to share every piece of testimony that was taken, every document that was collected, so everybody can analyze the same material and be on the same page at trial. Jim Jordan decided he didn't like those rules, and so he just decided, just like Donald Trump did when it was time to declassify documents, he didn't want to observe those rules. What? Yeah. So going into this hearing yesterday with these fake whistleblowers who were actually, they lost their classified status because they refused to do their job, or they interfered with the doing of the job, or they stole from the FBI materials about the job that they were tasked with doing. And then on top of it, Jim Jordan convenes this committee and never shares any of their testimony with the Democrats. So the Democrats enter into the committee room flying blind. And still they were able to trip him up.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
They give us the bare minimum notice for hearings. No subject indicated. We learn who the hearing witnesses is from British tabloids. That's not normal in the House of Representatives. One must wonder, are Republicans scared of giving us the information so that we can do our own due diligence on these conspiracy theories, these ideas that they want to put forward? Indeed, today's hearing will be more of the same. Perhaps they're too far gone to realize that, in fact, this hearing is evidence, as if we needed any more, that MAGA Republicans are a threat to the rule of law in America. Less than 2 months ago, former President Trump, facing mounting investigations into his many alleged crimes, declared that, quote, Republicans in Congress should defund the DOJ and the FBI until they can come to their senses. And we all know that when Trump says jump, the Republicans in the House say, how high? So here we are, on Police Week, watching House Republicans jump to lay the foundation to defund law enforcement. My colleagues on the far right are on a mission to attack, discredit, and ultimately dismantle the FBI. This is defund the police on steroids. As part of their mission, my colleagues have brought in these former agents, men who lost their security clearances because they were a threat to our national security, who, out of malice or ignorance or both, have put partisan agenda above the oath they swore to serve this country and protect its national security.
So that was Stacey Plaskett's opening statement. That was just the opening statement so that everybody would understand that.
Shots fired. That was scathing. That was amazing.
Because everybody sees what they're doing. This is what Jim Jordan's Weaponization of Government Committee is doing. It's weaponizing the government against government. And he's wielding this gavel as if it's a shotgun, okay? And he's threatening everybody with it, which we all knew he would do because he's been chomping at the bit to do this. He sits next to Darrell Issa, who did it with Benghazi, okay? It's who they are. It's what they do because they don't want to govern. They don't give a rat's ass about your lot in life. They don't care about your grocery prices. They certainly don't care about the air you breathe. They certainly don't care about food, eating at all. They want to put work requirements on people that already work to get $30 a week in food stamps. I mean, they are some sick, toxic people. But that was her opening statement because the witnesses that were sitting before her and the rest of the committee had given testimony to the Republican side of the Weaponization Committee. But the Republican side didn't share any of it with the Democrats. In fact, they didn't even give them notice of who these people were going to be. The Democrats on the committee that Jim Jordan is chairing found out who the witnesses would be in a British tabloid. And they were told nothing about the testimony that they had previously given. Dan Goldman, who I think you'll remember from the impeachment hearings, he was, an impeachment manager, who I think he's heir to the Levi's fortune. This guy does not need to be a member of the House of Representatives at all, okay? He's totally got a law degree. He's a brilliant guy. He's not a bad-looking guy. He's got an above-average dancing skill. Do you know what I'm saying? He doesn't need any of this. But he ran for Congress after the impeachment because the stuff that he was finding out was so hair-raising that he understood all hands on deck. So he ran for a congressional seat out of New York where he lives. And I'm sure you've seen, remember when we were in pandemic mode and everybody was zooming in and we were rating everybody's space? Dan Goldman's apartment in New York, spectacular. All white. Everything's white. White carpet, white walls, white couches, white. Oh, my God. Anyway, he ran, he won. He's now on the Judiciary Committee. He actually understood something about these guys enough to ask a couple of good questions about how in the world are you here? Like, who's footing the bill for this? You lost your jobs, right? So who's paying you?
We established earlier credibility matters, certainly for witnesses who appear before us. Mr. Boyle, do you know who Kash Patel is?
I do.
Have you received any money from Kash Patel or his organization?
I have.
When you previously met with the majority members and or majority staff of this committee, was Kash Patel present for that meeting?
No.
To your knowledge, has Kash Patel ever spoken to the committee members on your behalf?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of? Was anyone present for your previous meetings with committee members and staff on the majority that were not members of this committee or staff of this committee?
My counsel.
Your counsel? Anyone else?
I don't think so. No.
Is Kash Patel helping you finance your counsel?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Mr. Friend, what about you? Do you know Kash Patel as well?
Yes.
And did you receive any money from Kash Patel?
Yes, he gave me a donation last November.
A donation?
Yes.
Are you a charitable organization?
I was an unpaid, indefinitely suspended man trying to feed his family, and he reached out to me and said he wanted to give me a donation.
Did he have any, was he present for any of your meetings with committee members or staff?
No.
And how many times did you meet with the committee members or staff prior to your transcribed interview?
I never met with them prior to my transcript.
Did you speak to them on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so you spoke to them on the phone?
Yes, I spoke to them on the phone, corresponded.
Did you provide documents?
Yes, I gave them my written declaration.
Did they ask you whether they could share that with the minority?
I don't know. At the time, I don't believe they were actually in the majority.
Did they ask you whether they could share the documents?
I don't remember if they did or didn't.
Okay, so it's not important to him whether or not the documents that he submitted to the Republican side of the aisle are shared with others. Wasn't important to him, okay? He did take money from Kash Patel. So did the O'Boyle guy. They took money from Kash Patel. And their big excuse is, well, we couldn't work. You know, we were fired a year ago. And so, you know, we needed money. Really? Drive an Uber. Work for DoorDash. Oh, hell, you're an FBI agent. Go join the police force. Go be a security guard somewhere. You needed to take money from Kash Patel, who advises Donald Trump and takes the fifth under oath when he's questioned about documents that appear magically at Magaloco. Okay, that's your guiding light. That's your star. That's the person you look to for character and decency and money. Oh my God. So we found out early on in this hearing that they were being paid by a Trump advisor to be loyal to the conspiracy theory that January 6th was an inside job. Okay, I mean, that is just so amazing. So now Jim Jordan is asked, why didn't you share his testimony with us? Because Dan Goldman's already elicited from him that he really didn't care if his testimony was shared. He had no position on it, pro or con. It wasn't the thing he even remembers being asked about. And so once that's established on the record that Mr. Friend there didn't give a damn whether or not anybody shared whatever he, wrote in a declaration of, fact and signed his name to, Jim Jordan is asked, well, why didn't you then share it with us? And Jim Jordan proceeds to lie. Because he's a whistleblower, and whistleblowers have protection, and he asked us not to share it with you. Well, he just said he didn't, number one. And number two, who said he was a whistleblower? Who said? Because we got a letter here from the FBI, says he's not.
On TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Mr. Allen did meet with you all and might have testimony that was transcribed. And I understand that he stated that he did not feel comfortable meeting with the Democrats. He's comfortable being here today in this open forum. We will be questioning him. Will you give us a copy of that testimony that was transcribed of your discussions with him?
That'll be up to Mr. Allen.
But you are in possession of them, aren't you?
Sure are.
So why would you not give them to us?
Mr. Allen's a whistleblower and he didn't want that to happen.
The whistleblower doesn't decide that. The committee decides it.
And we've decided.
And you've decided that you're not going to share.
Mr. Allen is here. You can ask him questions. And we can talk about the testimony, but right now you're not getting the testimony.
Where is the whistleblower exception in the rules of Congress that says that does not apply?
It's the prerogative of the committee to decide.
No, it's the rules of the House.
We have the whistleblower testimony. The whistleblower does not wish that to be made available to the Democrats at this time.
The whistleblower doesn't make committee rules, sir.
I'm not aware that you're able to withhold information from the minority that we would need to use to prepare for.
When it comes to whistleblowers, you're not. And I would just remind the committee, remind everyone. Look, when it comes to whistleblowers, you are not. You are not entitled to it. That's at the discretion of Mr. Allen.
Mr. Chairman, these individuals have been determined not to be whistleblowers. These are not whistleblowers. They've been determined by the agency not to be whistleblowers. Are you deciding that they're whistleblowers?
Yes, the law decides. Did you not listen to Mr. Levitt's testimony? Did you not read the law? The law decides that they are whistleblowers.
His attorney is asserting that they are whistleblowers.
The gentlelady from New York. The gentlelady from New York has been recognized.
The law has not determined that they are whistleblowers. In fact, the FBI itself gave a letter to Jim Jordan the night before this charade, this circus. of crap, and said these are not whistleblowers. The FBI does not, acknowledge that they are whistleblowers. In fact, there was this 11-page letter that the FBI sent over to Jim Jordan, saying that these three people, that their top secret clearance was revoked because the security division inside the FBI and various field offices where these guys worked had opened investigations into their behavior. Mr. Allen, Mr. Friend, and Mr. O'Boyle. The investigations concluded that Mr. Friend presented a number of security concerns related to his personal conduct, handling of protected information, and use of information technology, according to the letter. The letter also said, quote, "The security concerns stem from your refusal to execute a court-ordered arrest warrant, unauthorized download of sensitive FBI information, failure to participate in a security awareness briefing, unauthorized dissemination of sensitive FBI information, unauthorized recording of executive management, unsanctioned interviews with the media, and lack of candor during an interview with the security division." Additional details about the clearance revocation said that they espoused alternative theories about the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. They also say that Mr. Friend entered FBI space and downloaded documents from an FBI computer to an unauthorized removable flash drive. And then the FBI required Mr. Friend to attend a security awareness briefing regarding his actions, but he refused to go. Mr. Allen, who said he didn't really care if they shared his declaration with the Democrats, who Mr. Jordan is now characterizing as a man who did have objections to his testimony being shared with the Democrats because he's a whistleblower, you know. Well, the FBI said his clearance was suspended on January 19th, 2022, and ultimately revoked on May 3rd after he was referred by FBI's Charlotte field office, and that prompted a security division investigation into Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen's clearance was revoked due to security concerns regarding his personal conduct and whether or not he actually had allegiance to the United States. Mr. Dunham, who is the deputy director here at the FBI, wrote to Jim Jordan that Mr. Allen, quote, failed to provide relevant information to an FBI special agent, an SA, regarding subjects who were allegedly involved in criminal activity at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Specifically, Mr. Allen was asked to conduct, quote, an open source search on a January 6 suspect. Mr. Allen then reported back to his supervisor that, quote, he did not find any information that the subject engaged in any criminal activity, nor did he find any nexus to terrorism. Mr. Allen closed that case, but then it was reopened and assigned to a different FBI employee who provided publicly available information about the subject, information that was readily available and should have been obtained by Mr. Allen when he was conducting his search. Quote, this is the letter, investigative activity established that this subject physically assaulted U.S. Capitol police officers on January 6, 2021. Mr. Allen expressed sympathy for persons or organizations that advocate, threaten, or use force of violence in an effort to prevent federal government personnel from performing their official duties investigating this man, and that affected his work. The letter goes on and on and on, and Mr. Jordan actually, sits there and denies that these men are, he actually asserts that these men are whistleblowers. These men are not whistleblowers. These are disgruntled employees who got caught being conspiracy theorists and advocating for their conspiracy, which was that there was a deep state, and the deep state was the person that was the thing that attacked the Capitol. You know, the Ray Epps crap, and he was an FBI agent, and he was planted and telling them, go inside, go inside. All this garbage, that's what these three guys were loyal to, the conspiracy theory, not to the U.S. government. Now, you can only be a whistleblower if you're exposing criminality, waste, fraud, things like that. You can't be a disgruntled employee and lose your security clearance for valid reasons, that can be proved easily, that there were newspaper articles about the kinds of criminal activity that these people who you refuse to arrest committed. And you can't claim you're a whistleblower if you refuse, as an FBI agent, to arrest people who have demonstrably, on videotape, committed criminal acts against police officers on January 6th. And that is exactly what these guys did. They refused to. Well, there was a warrant for arrest, court ordered, court issued, and these FBI agents refused to arrest the people that the court ordered arrest because they believed that they were innocent, because they believed it was a deep state. I mean, this is crazy. But that's who Jim Jordan tried to get away with presenting as whistleblowers yesterday. And even with the Democrats one hand behind their back, they could see it.
Clear. Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
As a former agent and someone who cares deeply about a great institution, I saw a sad spectacle today, and I didn't see valid whistleblowers. Look, the real facts here, not the fiction that Jim Jordan was trying to promulgate today, are contained in an 11-page letter issued by the FBI in response to Jordan. Last night, he gets this letter, and all the facts are there about the real reasons why these employees had their security clearances revoked.
Right.
And it's a damning letter. The facts, not the fiction, but the facts are damning. We're talking about FBI agents and analysts who refused to do their job, who said, I'm not going out on that arrest. I object to that arrest. By the way, a valid court-authorized arrest warrant of a dangerous wanted person. Someone going in after hours into the FBI system using an unauthorized flash drive and extracting sensitive information. An analyst who decided he would lie to an agent and say, I can't find anything publicly available about this defendant who was at the Capitol on January 6th. Another analyst says, whoa. There's easily accessible public information showing this guy was inside the Capitol. They later find out he assaulted police officers. He was obstructing this investigation. So things cited in the revocation of clearances included a lack of allegiance to the United States of America, lack of candor during an investigation, refusing to do your job, violating security procedures with information technology systems. These are not whistleblowers. They've not come forward with a protected disclosure of waste, fraud, or abuse, criminal wrongdoing. They're not happy with their lot in life. And my message to them, and most agents' message to them, is if you can't uphold your oath that you swore to, if you don't like the law enforcement mission of the FBI, there's thousands of people waiting to become FBI employees. Just step out and we'll replace you.
So that's Frank Figluzzi, who obviously, is a former counterintelligence officer at the FBI, and is just like everybody understands what's going on here. They're trying to sow distrust of the FBI. Donald Trump is, and the Department of Justice as a larger organization, because they're very close to indicting Donald Trump for a number of crimes, numerous crimes, endless numbers of crimes, including and up to insurrection, including and up to conspiracy to commit insurrection, to stop an official proceeding of Congress, which we learned has a 20-year a penalty associated with it. So that's why they want to destroy the DOJ, and that's why they want to destroy the FBI. And the first thing that you do is you sow distrust for the entire institution. And that is what Jim Jordan is doing there with the weaponization of government. bullcrap as he weaponizes government and hides the baloney. He hides the salami over here from the Democrats so that they're just blindly asking questions to witnesses whose testimony they weren't given ahead of a hearing. But the FBI actually wrote a letter explaining why a year ago these guys were fired. Why these guys were fired a year ago. Some of them not doing their job, others of them conspiracy theorists, others of them, there's only 3, but others of them literally going into the FBI field office with a unauthorized flash drive and downloading information about the investigation on which they're working. I mean, this is like that Texera guy too. Okay, that was the Air National Guard dude. The judge refuses to release him. They just found videotape of that guy firing, semi-automatic weapons for fun, but saying like a racially charged, ugly crap before he fires his gun. These guys all are a piece of something very ugly called Christian white nationalism. It's this white supremacy movement, and you could call it whatever you want if it makes you feel better, but these guys are all a part of overthrowing the government of the United States in service of Donald J. Trump's conspiracy theories. It's really, really getting to the point where, like we were saying, for days now, it doesn't matter what class of person you are. It doesn't matter if you're educated, not educated, if you're in the Air Force, if you're in the FBI. It doesn't matter if you're, a doctor, a lawyer. It doesn't matter. People, their brains have been squeezed dry of any logic and reason. And they believe this conspiracy swill that's being peddled by MAGA and MAGA Republicans. There's only 36 of them in the House of Representatives. There's 36 of them. But honestly, they are such an impediment to paying our debt. They're an impediment to law enforcement. They're an impediment to trusting the institutions, questioning institutions that have gone off the rails, holding people accountable for fraud and crime. I mean, look at George Santos. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, 13 felonies this guy's been charged with. Lying about his own mother's death. His own mother. He said his mother died in 9/11. His mother didn't die in 9/11. I mean, she lived like, another 10, 15 years after that. It's so sick. And yet, in service of this conspiracy theory to make everyone distrust all the institutions that provide services for the American people, that create a civil society as best as they can in their current form, okay? It's not perfect, but it's a far cry from Somalia, and that's what they're gunning for, literally. Everybody's armed, no government. We just kill each other. But I mean, this guy, the idea that Jim Jordan is sitting there characterizing these people who have no allegiance to the United States, have no allegiance to the oath they took, but instead are aligned with and loyal to conspiracy theories propounded by Donald J. Trump, that they are whistleblowers. The nerve of him to even go there. The nerve of him. I mean, one of the questions asked last night to Frank Figliuzzi was, hey, listen, if you were trying to go after the FBI's wrongdoing, why wouldn't you call Christopher Wray in there? And obviously Figliuzzi said, sorry, I'm screwing up your name, Frank. But he actually said, listen, if you brought in Christopher Wray, he would tell you what he tells at every hearing. He would say that there's white supremacists that have filtered into the government, and the biggest threat that America faces is from Christian white nationalist groups. Okay, from neo-Nazi groups and white supremacist groups and white nationalist groups and, incel groups, and they're all in service together to destroy this government. So that's why he didn't call Chris Wray in, because Chris Wray would have just said that again, and they don't want the truth out there.
They didn't want the truth to come out. We even glossed over some of the more ugly parts of this. Real quick, two things. Stephen Friend and this SWAT team that he objected to because it was too aggressive. The guy they were arresting was seen at the Capitol using chemical spray against officers in full tactical gear with a helmet, known to possess an AR-15. And Stephen Friend suggests what? That he's cooperative. We should make an appointment for him to turn himself in. Really? You want that guy showing up in the reception room at the office? That's fascinating. So it's those kinds of things that just gloss over, and they thought they would get away with it today, and they didn't.
Right. They thought that if they didn't share the testimony, if they didn't share any of the information that the Republicans had available to them about the quality and character of these three miscreants who were in the FBI but loyal to, conspiracy theories, that they could get away with calling them whistleblowers.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Harry, what does it say that Republicans are trying to misappropriate the whistleblower term? I mean, there's always a more sinister motive. They are reappropriating the term whistleblower after doing everything they could to endanger the life of the actual whistleblower that led to Donald Trump's first impeachment. And they are standing by people who are, at a minimum, and again, it's not in dispute, guilty of insubordination, of refusing to carry out a court-approved search.
Yeah, I mean, there is a political farce here, and it even extends to the level of language and the complete twisting and bastardization of terms we accept and that are important. A point that hasn't been raised, but was a big part of the back and forth in the committee, the testimony that this guy gave, that Agent Allen gave to the Republicans, he refused to provide to the Democrats. He said, "I'm not comfortable." Goldman had a field day with Jordan saying he doesn't get to decide. There are rules here. And again, their whistleblowers want their information to come out. But this, in fact, exposed him as just being a political operative. Fine. Let him, he searches far and wide. Does Jordan finds 2 or 3 people who are political operatives, but they're not whistleblowers. And of course, the irony is we're at this point in the country where what conservative means to Jordan is specifically anti-prosecution of the most important crimes against the United States in our history. That's what makes this particularly perverse. Conservative here means I don't want to enforce the law.
So law and order then becomes code for white supremacy. You understand? That's the natural flow of the logic that's at play with the Republican Party right now. So, I mean, Alexander Vindman, that's who Nicole Wallace was invoking there when she said that, we had a real whistleblower in the case of the Ukraine phone call, right? Alexander Vindman said there's a recording, there's a phone call where Donald Trump was extorting, Zelensky in Ukraine, asking him to find dirt on his political opponent, Joe Biden. And in exchange, he would release what was already appropriated to Ukraine for their defense against Russia pre-invasion. There was already a Cold War going on between Ukraine and Russia. As we now all can see, the hot war has actually taken place. But there was a Cold War there, and Russia was threatening to take even more of Ukraine's land, more than, Crimea. They were threatening to take the entire eastern portion of Ukraine, right? And he needed Javelin missiles to repel them from doing even that. Okay, and so Donald Trump said, well, I'll give them to you because, the Congress says I should, but I need a favor. And Vindman knew that extortion had occurred on tape on a phone call, and he was a legitimate whistleblower. He was trying to expose criminal behavior. He was trying to expose the weaponization of the presidency against an ally. And Ukraine, like it or not, they're an ally. I like it. You might not. I don't know. There's people on the left that just freak me out now. I swear they're like Marxist or something. I don't know. They're pro-Stalin. Who knows how they got there? I guess they went so far to the left they came around the other side. It's I don't know. But anyway, so here's Jim Jordan lying about these political operatives who are taking money from Kash Patel, a political operative who pled the Fifth under oath when questioned about the stealing of classified materials from the U.S. government and taking them to Magaloko. I swear to God, it's and Jim Jordan really thought that he could get away with it if he just buried the preparation that he believed Democrats would need in order to question these guys in a meaningful manner. Turns out it probably would have been, amazing if Dan Goldman and Stacey Plaskett and who else was there? Jerry Connolly. Poor Jerry Connolly. What a week he's had. Jerry Connolly, he's the member that was in his office in Fairfax, Virginia. He was at his district office when a mentally ill man came into his office and, started attacking his staffers. Well, where's Jerry? Which is another common thing that you see now, where people who are mentally ill want to attack members of the House of Representatives and ask for them by name. It's like, the guy who beat up Paul Pelosi. What did he do? He went to Nancy Pelosi's house in San Francisco and said, "Where's Nancy?" Right? When they broke into the Capitol, they were running around going, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Oh, Nancy, Nancy," right? They do that now with Jerry Connolly. They walked into his office. They said, "Where's Jerry? Where's Jerry?" Asked for him by name, and then started, beating the crap out of his staffers. One was an intern, and that was her first day at work. Welcome to the swamp. But Jerry Connolly was on the committee too. And of course, Jerry Connolly was like, listen, I feel bad for you. I really do. You obviously have grievances, but that does not make you a whistleblower. And frankly, I'm not sure why we even had this hearing.
I must say, on this hearing, y'all have employment grievances. That doesn't make you whistleblowers. And maybe those grievances are legitimate, or maybe some aspects of it are legitimate, and all of you have careers, and I'm sorry for the situation in which you find yourselves, but this is not a forum for individual members of any agency, federal agency, unless there's a broad pattern of discrimination or violation of law, to air their grievances, their employment grievances. And I must say, listening to this hearing, I don't walk away convinced of anything other than we're listening to sad tales of certain individuals about their situation. And the enumeration of grievances does not constitute whistleblower status.
Right. And that was the end of it. They were just upset that they got caught downloading on unauthorized flash drives, that they got caught not wanting to arrest a guy who literally was at the Capitol in tactical gear, beating a police officer and spraying bear spray on them. He didn't want to arrest them. And then another guy got caught saying, no, there's no incriminating information on this guy, and it was publicly available on videotape that there was. So, I mean, but the nerve of Republicans to do this simply in service of making people doubt that the FBI is a legitimate organization on behalf of Donald Trump, who wants everyone to think that they're not, is just so, it's so swampy, and it's so dirty, and it's obviously in service of getting Donald Trump reelected, because people will distrust everything that's in place right now. That seems to be working, fairly well, considering, we're coming out of a pandemic that went on for 2 years. Okay. And that, we're starting to see everything, get back to, normal, and even better than normal. They just hate it. They just really do. They hate effective governance. They hate a civilized society. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene had the temerity yesterday to stand up there and say that middle school principal Jamal Bowman threatens her. And he called me a white supremacist. And I'm threatened by that. I'm threatened by him. His mannerisms are aggressive and threatening, the big black man. That's exactly what a white supremacist would say. Brother David.
As it was in the days of ancient Rome, sister. The many things you said today, word to infinity to all of them, when you said it looked more like a Roman Senate meeting, that one just jumped out at me. Mm-hmm. It's front-loaded fascist phony Friday.
Yeah.
And I watched that. Cassidy Hutchinson was more of a whistleblower than these guys, and
right.
She was a witness under oath.
Right.
I watched it, realizing that fact and fiction have become so intertwined, and this through, and I'm not making this up, repeated flashbacks of recent past elections and, God forbid, the next election that Sunday's Succession episode generated in me. This is why elections matter. This is why paying attention.
Oh, I'm not up to there. Don't you dare.
It's just about
I'm not saying a word.
I'm not up there. I'm not at the election. I'm not there. I know there will. I mean, but
no spoilers, sister. No. But I'm just saying.
I'll tell you where I am. I'm on season 4, episode 1. Yes.
Oh, you're not ready. Okay.
Right.
I'll leave that alone. But my point is that fictional.
All I could tell you from what I've deduced, okay, is that Elon Musk is Lucas Matson from Gojo.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Totally.
Okay, go ahead.
That's all. Fact and fiction are still two different things.
Yeah, they are. I know.
But as long as we the people, of whom there are still more of, continue to let them blur, then the fascists are going to have their way. And I just still believe they won't. Gorgeous girdles for everyone.
Thank you.
Love you always.
I love you more. I have to believe that they won't get their way either. But thank you to the Democrats yesterday on the House Judiciary. Well, it wasn't Judiciary. It was Jim Jordan's made-up subcommittee.